You know, it's a word we use all the time. I hope so. But what if I told you that simple word, hope, is carrying the weight of an ancient battle of ideas? What if its real meaning is actually a story that got lost in translation? So today, that's what we're going to do. We're going to find it. So, what does hope really mean? I mean, we throw it around so casually, right? We think we know what it means, but the answer is so much more complex. And honestly, it's way more fascinating than you might think. Let's just dive right in. So, think about it. On one hand, hope can be just simple wishful thinking. I hope it doesn't rain. But then, on the other hand, it's this incredibly deep, confident expectation. My hope is in you. You see the difference, right? It's like the word has this split personality. And that's our first big clue. It tells us something really important is missing from the story. All right, so to figure out what's really going on here, we've got to go back in time. We're going to look at the skeptical Greek idea of elpis, the super practical Roman tool of spes, and the powerful Hebrew vision of tikva. And you'll see how this all leads to this huge clash of ideas, fate versus faith.
First stop, ancient Greece. Their version of hope, which they called elpis, is definitely not what you'd expect. Forget about it being a virtue. For the Greeks, hope was ambiguous and maybe, just maybe, a little bit dangerous.
The whole thing starts with the famous myth of Pandora. The story goes, right, that she's given this jar with one simple rule. Whatever you do, don't open it. So, what does she do? Of course, she opens it. And out flies this swarm of evils into the world. Sickness, misery, you name it. She slams the lid shut, but it's way too late. Everything gets out. Well, almost everything. There was one thing left behind, trapped inside. Elpis, the Greek word for hope. So, this brings up the huge question that people have debated for centuries. Was hope left in that jar as a final blessing for all of us, or was it actually the final curse, the one evil that stayed behind just to torment humanity with false expectations? And here's the kicker. This is why that whole debate is even a thing. You see, the Greek word elpis wasn't automatically a good thing, not like how we think of hope. It just meant expectation, and that could be the expectation of something amazing or the expectation of total disaster. It was totally neutral. A complete 50-50 shot. And here is the crucial piece of the puzzle. See, for the Greeks, the whole universe was run by something called Moira, basically an impersonal, totally unchangeable fate. Your destiny was already set in stone. So in a world like that, what is hope, really? It's a blind guess, right? A potentially dangerous delusion that could distract you from facing what's already coming. Okay, so let's jump over to the Romans. They looked at this, this philosophical headache from the Greeks, and they did what the Romans always did. They made it practical. In true Roman fashion, they took hope from a private, messy feeling and turned it into a public tool, an engine for building an empire. I mean, check this out. You can literally see it stamped on their money. This is a Roman coin, and that's the goddess Spes right there. She wasn't some abstract idea. She was an official deity representing the Spes Publica, the hope of the people. So for them, hope wasn't just some nice idea, it was practically currency. And what she was in charge of? Whoa, her portfolio was massive. The Romans were looking to Spes for, well, pretty much everything. Victory in war? Check. Good harvests? Check. Healthy kids, strong marriages, the entire future of the empire? All of it. She was just woven right into the fabric of everyday Roman life.
So you can just forget the Greek suspicion. For the Romans, hope, or spes, was a virtue, a core virtue. It was basically a state-sanctioned discipline of collective optimism. I mean, think about it. When they were facing just total annihilation during the Punic Wars, it was this shared, cultivated hope that gave them the grit to hang on and, in the end, to win.
Okay, now let's pivot to a worldview that is completely different from both the Greeks and the Romans. In the Hebrew tradition, hope isn't some dangerous feeling stuck in a jar, and it's not some political tool. It's something solid. Something you can actually hold on to. And get this, because the origin of the word itself tells you everything you need to know. The main Hebrew word for hope is tikva, and its root, kava, literally means to bind together by twisting. So tikva isn't a feeling, it's a cord or rope. And all of a sudden, hope isn't this abstract idea anymore. It's a lifeline. You can really see this come to life in the story of Rahab from the book of Joshua.
She's told that to save her family when her city is destroyed, she has to hang a scarlet cord, a tikva, from her window. That physical rope, that scarlet cord, it becomes the actual tangible symbol of her rescue. It is her hope.
And this, right here, this is the core of it all. Our English word hope can be so flimsy, just wishful thinking. But the Hebrew tikva, that's not a wish. It's a confident expectation. It's almost a guarantee. And why is that? Well, think about it. A rope is totally useless unless it's tied to something solid, right? And in this worldview, that rope is anchored firmly to a reliable promise. So we have the sealed jar, the imperial tool, and the sturdy rope. 3 completely different blueprints for what hope is. So let's put these all side by side and see exactly what got lost in translation along the way. Yeah, this table right here, it pretty much crystallizes everything. You've got the Greek elpis, a neutral expectation, symbolized by that jar. Then you have the Roman spes, a civic virtue, symbolized by a flower bud. And finally, the Hebrew tikva, a theological certainty, that scarlet cord. Each one of these comes from a totally different way of seeing the world. And this really reveals the engine that's driving all of this. You see, the Greek world ran on Moira, this impersonal, unchangeable fate. Hope, in that world, is just a blind guess against an outcome that's already fixed. But the Hebrew world, it ran on Berith, a personal covenant, a promise. So their hope becomes a clear-eyed trust, not in what's going to happen, but in who made the promise. And that's really the crucial point here. Our modern English word hope, it's kind of like a container that's carrying all these jumbled up echoes from these ancient worlds. It holds the Greek uncertainty, the Roman optimism, and the Hebrew conviction, all at the same time. And that is why we can use the exact same word to mean 2 completely opposite things. So that leaves us with one final question for you. The next time you find yourself saying, "I hope so," just stop for a second and ask yourself, what do you really mean by that? Which one of these ancient stories are you actually telling? Are you just making a wish on a sealed jar with no real idea of what's inside? Or are you holding onto a sturdy rope that's anchored to something solid?